I don't think we understand why these companies do what they do. And I think the first time that we saw or we should look to seeing where companies change was Occupy Wall Street. Those banks were being protested, and they sat in front of the streets. And most people think, it just died out. No, I believe that there were deals made. Look, leave us alone, and we'll help you do X, Y, or Z. There are very few giant corporations, I think, that are true to, even their advertising. I want to teach the world to sing. Do you, Coke? We have Calley Means on the phone with us now. He is the co-founder of TrueMed, and he's a whistleblower on Coca Cola. Hello, Calley.
How you doing, Glenn?
I'm good. So tell me your story from the beginning before we get into the Coca Cola. Tell me who you are, where you came from, and how you got here.
Yeah, I was born and raised in the swamp. I was born and raised in Georgetown. Very ideological. Worked in politics early in my career. Worked for John McCain. Got into, most people after the campaigns get into consulting. Then I found myself in the rooms with pharma executives, soda executives, and seeing some very alarming things. So slowly got out of that, got more into entrepreneurship, and it just kind of grounded in that public policy standpoint, had become very passionate. I think when you look at what's happening with kids, 25% of young adults having prediabetes, what's happening to the health of Americans, there's something being rigged, and it's a first-order issue because, depression and disease is just skyrocketing, life expectancy is declining. And I really tied it back to my early experience and, have a new company that's trying to change those incentives. But, with the new son and looking at the world he's going into, I felt the need to speak out. Okay, so you were were you on the side of Coca-Cola at the time when they were talking about, the sugary drinks and Snap? Yeah, unfortunately, there's not a big lobby for diabetic children, but so Coke's throwing a lot of money around in D.C., and the consultants are almost universally on the side of the soda companies, the American Beverage Associations, the various front groups, and pharma. And
so what happened? You were there, and you were fighting for Coca-Cola or Big Soda, and you were in the room, and what did you witness?
Yeah, I think this is really instructive, and it's from 2012 and instructive now because this is up for debate again. But this was around food stamps. So food stamps is a program that 15% of the American people depend on for nutrition. We can debate whether it's a good program or not, but it's there. And shockingly, 10% of that is spent on sugary drinks. 10% of a $110 billion government nutrition program. It's a material part of Coke and Pepsi's revenue. And logically, people were questioning that, and Coke wanted to keep the status quo. So the playbook they used is the playbook, as old as time, and absolutely still used today. And it's a three-part stool. The first was identifying civil rights organizations, in this case, the NAACP. And what was shocking, being in the room as kind of a bad scene. I mean, these old, Coke executives basically dictating what the NAACP should say. It's very transactional. They say the quiet part out loud. Coke gave the NAACP millions of dollars, and they explicitly agreed to call opponents, in this case parents who are concerned their children are, ingesting 100 times more sugar than they did 100 years ago, racist. It is that simple. But it's bipartisan. The second leg of the stool was, we paid off pay-to-play conservative think tanks on the left and the right, but the Heritage Foundation is a big player in the pay-to-play scheme, and it's basically a corporate-owned entity. Ordering a study from the Heritage Foundation is like going to McDonald's and ordering a Big Mac. You get whatever you want. And then the third...
Wait. I want to make sure I understand this. You're saying that part of big corporations' plans, which I absolutely believe, is to order studies. And but they go to the Heritage Foundation. One of them, you say they're on both left and right, but one of them was the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah, and I think it's important to call out. I mean, the elites on both sides are getting bought off, and the way it works at the Heritage Foundation is you get a fundraising point. The fundraising point escorts the Coke executives or the pharma executives into the Heritage Foundation to meet with the scholar. You talk high-level concepts, and then the fundraising point basically guarantees that a study is going to say what they want it to say, and there's an exchange of funds. Interestingly, and I think importantly, I also have seen, oil companies and other, special interests pay the Heritage Foundation and other conservative think tanks to not call something a tax. I mean, Grover Norquist, the Heritage Foundation, this whole DC influence, network actually has redefined often what a tax is. So you can actually buy publicity to rail against a tax, of course, but you can also pay these organizations to redefine something as not a tax that benefits them.
There was something that I saw that I talked about in the first hour of today's podcast of there's this new study out by the, Greening of the World Foundation or whatever it is, a global warming foundation, new study that shows that gas stoves and all natural gas should be taken out of homes because it's too dangerous for kids with asthma. And the first thing I thought was, oh, really? The global warming study came back with that.
Exactly.
What a surprise. And everything that we do now in politics is based on some study. And you're saying you can't trust a study from either side.
Well, I think that's very importantly, and I think global warming is a great example. When there's trillions of dollars at play, you can guarantee that financial interests are rigging the institutions that trust. And I think the third place we went on this stop that's the playbook is I think actually the most important and I think the least understood. Large, prominent elite research universities, in my opinion, are nothing more than public relations entities of corporate interests.
They're exactly what Eisenhower warned about in his farewell address. I mean, he said big military industrial, corporations, and educations will just start selling out and producing the studies that corporations or the government wants.
Yeah, well, there's nothing more prominent or unimpeachable still today in the media on the left and the right as like a peer-reviewed study from an elite research institution. But you've got to ask who's funding these studies. You can have a peer-reviewed study say whatever you want. You can ask whatever question you want. You can structure the study however you want. So I think what's really relevant for this issue I really care about, which is the nutrition, the hijacking of American nutrition, is, the disastrous 1990s food pyramid. That was on foundational research from Harvard University, from the head of nutrition at Harvard University, directly paid for by sugar. It leads up to today to the latest NIH-funded, it's called the Food Compass, they herald it as the most complex and important nutrition study, in modern times. It says Fruit Loops are more nutritious than eggs. And it is directed by processed food companies. It says Honey Nut Cheerios is more nutritious than organic ground beef. So that's still what we're getting. And you look at it, Coca Cola and processed food companies spend 11 times more money on basic nutritional research, funding basic nutritional research at universities than the NIH. And even the NIH is just a grant-making organization, and in the case of this Food Compass I just mentioned, is actually more often than not, funding professors who have other financial incentives to the topic they're studying. So really, we need to absolutely, again, I'm looking at PR consultants at Washington, dictate to prominent professors what they should be finding in their research. It's pretty unsettling.
So how do we fix this, or what do we trust as personally, I think there is some common sense in some people alive today that would say, hey, how about moderation in all things would be a good place to start. But what do you trust if all of these institutions are blown?
Yeah, so I'll talk. I think health is a specific area that I think is impactful to everyone and gives a framework. But let's look at what has happened in health in the past 40 years. I think the patient has been systematically disempowered and in fear, and really by extension in the American people, right? It's like don't self-diagnose, don't trust, you don't question the science, trust the science. The American patient has been battered into not questioning anything and basically in total fear. So, the first step, and this is why it's important to get this out there, is to wake up a little bit, is to look around your children's classroom, look at the fact that most children are obese. As I said, 25% have prediabetes, which used to be called adult onset diabetes. look at what's happening to the health of the adults and just start questioning things a little bit, and question when you see that news article with the new peer-reviewed study, and question whether it makes sense that Fruit Loops are more, healthier than eggs or beef. So that's the first part. And I think that is happening. I mean, I think we've got a lot of people speaking out. I'm encouraged that a lot of folks, nutrition's been an issue on the left, but I think the right's really waking up, looking at male sperm count plummeting 50% in the past 40 years.
What do you think that's caused by? Any idea?
Yeah, I don't think it's very complicated, Glenn. I think the foundation of the American diet right now, the foundation is processed grains, which is basically weaponizing, whole grains to take the fiber out, which basically makes it immediate sugar impact in the blood, makes the food addictive. 70% of food is processed food, which is the foundation, is processed grains. Seed oils, which is a very refined, cheap oil, and added sugar. Seed oils and processed grains didn't exist 100 years ago. These are new inventions. These are process inventions. And then added sugar really didn't exist until 100 years ago. It's gone up 100x in 100 years. So really the foundation of the American diet has been weaponized to be highly addictive, highly inflammatory. And it's just evolutionarily we're not made to do, and we're being gaslit, right? Just yesterday, the American Association of Pediatrics, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of pharma, but still a trusted institution, said that to combat this obesity that preteens are experiencing, they should get a weekly or monthly injection for the rest of their lives. This new big pharma obesity cure. So it's like I really think that there's this axis where food companies have basically weaponized food. Everyone's getting sick. Everyone's getting overweight. But our trusted medical institutions turn a blind eye because there's $1 trillion spent on statins now, metformin. All these drugs. Interestingly, all these things these drugs are treating have gone up. Diabetes has gone up. Heart disease. So there's this blind eye from the medical system. So to answer your question, it's education. There's also some public policies. We have some crony capitalist systems. I mean, and this can take to any.
You think? Hang on just a second. Hold on for just a second. I want to come back. I mean, it is so clear to me, at least. We're talking to Calley Means. He is the co-founder of TrueMed. You can follow him at Calley Means, spelled with a C, calleymeans.com as well. It is so clear to me when you look at us compared to the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. Something is up with our diet. It is clear. Mm-hmm. And even common sense tells you we didn't grow up with peanut allergies. We didn't have gluten-free everything. We've done something really bad to our food and our diet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Glenn. And to me, growing up as a conservative, considering that my philosophy, I think it's good people are waking up on this, because to me it's a first order issue. If we care about individual liberty, right, the most important thing is the ability of our brains. And I'm not trying to get too deep here, but like our brain, diabetes is cellular dysfunction. It is literally the cells malfunctioning. 20% of the cells are in our brain. Like we are basically like that is the first order issue of our human capital. And it's not just people being overweight. Depression is skyrocketing. Infertility is off the charts. As I mentioned, the male sperm count, PCOS, the leading cause of female infertility, is off the charts. We really are facing, and getting exponentially sicker, fatter, more depressed, and more infertile. And that's a first order issue. And and then you get to the market and people say, well, we don't want, Coke, it's free choice. People, I'm all for it. I'm libertarian. Let's have people drink Coke. It shouldn't be paid for with tens of billions of dollars of a government program. That's not a free market. That's a rigged system.
Correct.
So right now we have rigged the system, and you do not have a free market. And I think conservatives, even some very, well-meaning, smart conservatives that I know, if you even mention taking Coke away from food stamps, it's that's patriarchal. No. What's happening right now? The system is rigged right now. The system is rigged to give a 12-year-old an injection of a pharma drug instead of talking to them and working with the parents to get them healthier. You
are preaching to the choir, especially with ESG and everything else. They are planning on redesigning our food, what food is good for us, what's not, and it is all fixed. I mean, I can't get conservatives who are in power to understand, and maybe it's because they're on the take, that this is not messing with the free market. ESG is messing with the free market. You've got the government and corporations designing where they want the world to go, and we're not really offered the choice. We're being told lies, fake studies or paid for studies, and then we just find ourselves in this situation, and I think it's getting extraordinarily dangerous.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you just, you look at Bill Gates being the largest farm owner in the country, making processed food. It's just like you kind of start, going through and it's you don't want to be too conspiratorial, but, what is happening to the American people? And, just to your question about what people do. I mean, I think hopefully, people are listening to this, and it's been a big awakening for me in the past couple of years, and just waking up and starting asking questions. I think there's one actual public policy, thing you got to ask with your public policy what helps people stay healthy, and I actually think it's a good policy, the FSA HSA, which is a very underlooked, these tax-free accounts. What our company's doing is you can actually buy food and exercise tax-free. Food and exercise actually often is the best medicine. And most people don't even understand that. You can actually literally qualify food and exercise and other lifestyle as medicine, save 30-40% with your FSA HSA account.
Holy cow. I'm not aware of that. I'm out of time. Can I have you back? I'd like to do a podcast with you, Calley, because I think this is vital information. Calley, thank you so much for being on the program. Co-founder of TrueMed, Calley Means.